There are places in the world where recipes are not just food but memory, identity, and a kind of quiet inheritance passed from hand to hand. Sicily is one of those places. Long before recipes were written, long before cookbooks lined kitchen shelves, families on this island survived on dishes that were simple, humble, and incredibly resourceful. These meals fed fishermen returning from rough seas, farmers exhausted after long days in the fields, children running home from school, and grandparents who carried in their pockets the hardships of a land shaped by sun, wind, and centuries of history. If you listen closely, you can almost hear these recipes speak. They whisper stories of mothers stretching ingredients because there wasn't enough, of grandmothers turning scarcity into flavor, of neighbors sharing a piece of bread when nothing else was left. These dishes survived wars, droughts, poverty, and migration. They fed entire generations not because they were grand or elaborate, but because they were practical, comforting, and made with whatever the land could offer. And in those kitchens, small, warm, and crowded with life, Sicilians learned the magic of simplicity. Imagine stepping into one of those old kitchens. The air smells like tomatoes left to ripen in the sun, oregano drying in bunches by the window, olives soaking in brine, and the faint sweetness of onions sizzling in a pan. A pot simmers quietly on the stove, releasing clouds of steam that carry memories with them. Ti sin nadvor buscad, but there one. The Sicily of clay floor, chips udanspoon, that's without many. You might expect a list of recipes arranged in precise order, each with measurements and technical instructions. But Sicilian ricette pava were never written down like that. They lived through gestures, approximations, and instinct. A handful of this, a splash of that. Just enough to feed everyone. Just enough to stretch the week's ingredients a little longer. These dishes were not invented, they evolved naturally from what Sicilians had available: tomatoes, onions, chickpeas, fava beans, stale bread, lemons, wild greens, and the sea. Always the sea. Let's start where most Sicilian meals start, with bread. Not the warm, bakery-fresh bread you buy today, but yesterday's bread, or bread from the day before. In Sicily, stale bread is never thrown away. It becomes the foundation of dozens of dishes, each one a testament to the island's philosophy that nothing should be wasted. One of the simplest is pane e pomodoro, slices of hardened bread softened with water and topped with crushed tomatoes, olive oil, sea salt, and oregano. There is no cooking, no effort, no sophistication. And yet, the taste carries the soul of the island. Another classic is pane cunzato, seasoned bread. Peasant families would split a loaf. Darvezels either olive oil, eravisu, sprinkle oregano or bit of cheese. It was a complete meal disguised as a snack. Farmers packed it for the fields. Fishermen carried it on their boats. Children grabbed it mid-afternoon because it was quick, filling, and required nothing more than a few ingredients always present in a Sicilian home. From bread, the journey continues to legumes, chickpeas, lentils, and fava beans. These ingredients were once considered the food of the poor, but they fed generations with incredible efficiency. One of the most symbolic dishes is maccu di fave, a thick fava bean puree that dates back to ancient times. It's creamy, comforting, and almost sweet. Villagers used to cook it in large clay pots over low heat, stirring endlessly until it reached the perfect consistency. This was not just food. It was resilience in a bowl. Even today, older Sicilians smile when they speak about it. Lentil soup, chickpea stew, and simple broths made with onions, potatoes, and bay leaves were the heartbeat of rural Sicily. These dishes didn't need meat. They were rich with flavor because they were cooked slowly, with care. The aroma alone was enough to announce that dinner was coming. But there is another world of Sicilian recipes, one deeply connected to vegetables. In Sicily, a handful of garden vegetables can become a feast. Take caponata, for example. Today it's considered a specialty, almost gourmet, but its origins are humble. Farmers would chop eggplants, tomatoes, celery, onions, and capers. Then cook them slowly until they softened and blended into a sweet-sour mix. They would eat it warm in winter or cool in summer, always with bread. It was a way to use whatever the land produced, transforming abundance into a preserve that lasted days. Then there's peperonata peppers stewed with onions and garlic in olive oil. Simple, inexpensive, and bursting with color. Served alone, on bread, or as a side dish, it was a celebration of summer on the table. Tomatoes stuffed with breadcrumbs and herbs, zucchini cooked with mint, potatoes fried until golden each dish came from the same idea. Let the ingredients speak. Don't complicate it. Don't mask it. Just enhance it with what you have. Consider the timeless ritual of boiling wild greens. Sicily is rich in verga spontanea, borage, chicory, wild fennel, dandelion leaves. Women would wake early, walk to the edges of fields, and gather handfuls of whatever grew that season. These greens were boiled, seasoned with oil and lemon, and sometimes tossed with garlic. What could be more humble? And yet, these dishes nourished bodies, strengthened workers, and taught generations the taste of the land. Sicilian cooking also has room for pasta-simple recipes that survive because they're cheap, filling, and universally loved. One of the most iconic is pasta aglio e olio, known across Italy but deeply rooted in Sicily thanks to its olive groves. Another is pasta con la sarde, made with fresh sardines, wild fennel, pine nuts, and raisins. Even when families couldn't afford pine nuts or raisins, they improvised. What mattered was the idea, pasta enriched by what the sea and countryside provided. Even simpler is pasta ciu succu fintu, fake sauce, named because it contains almost no meat. A bit of onion, a pinch of minced meat, sometimes so little that it barely flavored the pot. Tomatoes, and a slow simmer created a sauce strong enough to flavor an entire family's meal. This dish reveals the heart of Sicilian poor cooking, makes something taste rich, even when it's not. And then there are the unexpected recipes, the ones created, not out of abundance, but desperation. Takupititu, bifreft over mixing them with eggs and shaping them into patties. Orpanica meza, a street food sandwich made from beef spleen. It was originally the food of workers from the slaughterhouses who took home leftover scraps that no one else wanted. Today, it is considered a delicacy. Sicilian desserts also have their humble origins. Considère pane zucchero, bread with sugar and moistened with water or milk. Children adored it because it transformed something ordinary into something sweet. Or sfinci, small fried dough balls made by stretching the last bits of flour, water, and yeast. They were cooked on special occasions or even ordinary afternoons when families needed comfort. All these dishes, 30 simple recipes, and many more share one truth. They were born from necessity, but they survived because they were delicious. They carry memories of hardship, but also memories of joy. They remind us that food is not only fuel but culture, history, and love. These 30 simple Sicilian recipes are more than culinary traditions. They are chapters in a story written by generations who face the world with strength and creativity. To understand them, it helps to see the rhythm of life that shaped them. Sicily is a land of contrasts, the sea blindingly bright, the interior rugged and brown. Summers scorching, winters short but damp. Families learned to cook according to rhythm and season. Nothing was wasted. Everything was transformed. Let's return to the kitchens where these recipes took shape. Most were small spaces with thick walls that stayed cool in summer. A wooden table at the center served as a stage for every meal. On ta table, women fetched dried herbs and prepared meals that had to satisfy an entire household with just a handful of ingredients. No recipe was ever exact. Every dish carried the imprint of the cook: more oil on some days, more tomatoes on others. Less salt when the sea was too close and the air itself tasted briny. One of the most symbolic dishes in this tradition is pasta e ceci, pasta with chickpeas. It is a dish of survival. The base is a simple broth made from onions sautéed in oil, a bit of tomato, and chickpeas simmered until they become tender enough to break apart with a spoon. Pasta is added at the end, cooked directly in the broth so it absorbs every bit of flavor. Some Sicilians would add rosemary, others a pinch of chili pepper, others nothing at all. But the essence remains the same: warm, hearty nourishment, perfect after long working days in the fields. À noter, Tim le dit, frittatas di cipolle, oignon frittatas. It is one of those recipes that turns almost nothing into something delicious. Onions are sliced thin, cooked until golden and sweet, then mixed with beaten eggs and fried until the edges crisp. It's cheap, easy, and beloved by every generation. Families often made it in the evening, using leftover onions from lunch or whatever was available in the pantry. Children loved it cold the next morning, tucked into bread. Speaking of onions, there's cipolle in agrodolce: sweet and sour onions simmered in vinegar and sugar. This technique reflects Sicily's centuries-old connection to Arab culinary traditions. Agrodolce dishes were common among poor families because vinegar was cheap, sugar was precious but used sparingly, and the result preserved food longer. It's remarkable how these combinations, once created out of necessity, are now considered sophisticated and even trendy. And then there is pasta con la zucchini frit, a dish that reveals the brilliance of Sicilian simplicity. Zucchini are sliced, salted, and fried until golden and soft. They're tossed with pasta, olive oil, and a handful of grated cheese if available. It's a dish with only 2 or 3 ingredients, yet its flavor is unforgettable. Many Sicilians say it tastes like summer evenings, the smell of fried zucchini drifting through narrow streets as neighbors chat from balcony to balcony. Bread continues to appear in countless forms. Polpette di pane, bread planks transformed in soft, flavorful patties mixed with garlic, parsley, cheese, and eggs. These were often served on Fridays or days when meat was not available or allowed. Another classic is cadaruni, a rustic stuffed bread usually filled with onions, tomatoes, olives, or anchovies. Every village has its own variation, its own identity wrapped in dough. No list of Sicilian poor recipes would be complete without panelle. These chickpea flour fritters were the snack of workers, students, and anyone who needed something filling and cheap. Batter is made from water, chickpea flour, parsley, salt, and pepper, nothing else. It's cooked until thick, cooled, sliced, and fried. Panelle are often eaten inside bread, creating one of the most iconic sandwiches of Palermo. Rice, too, has its humble roots in Sicilian cooking. Long before arancini became famous worldwide, leftover rice was shaped into balls or small patties and fried to create something crispy and satisfying. It was a way to reuse yesterday's food rather than waste it. Families experimented with whatever fillings they had: peas, cheese, small pieces of meat, or simply herbs. Vegetable-based soups also fed generations. Minestra patat, potato soups, sell a bit of pasta into something warm and filling. Minestra di verdure were available. These soups were eaten slowly with bread and served as both comfort and sustenance. The connection between Sicilians and the sea appears in recipes like sarda beccafico, sardines stuffed with breadcrumbs, raisins, and pine nuts. Although today it sounds luxurious, its origins are humble. Breadcrumbs replaced expensive meats. Raisins replaced sauces, and sardines were abundant and cheap. The result is a dish rich in flavor and tradition. Even simpler is sard frit, fried sardines. Dipped in flour and pan-fried in olive oil, they were the everyday meal of countless families along the coast. Their aroma filled the air in small fishing towns, becoming part of the sensory memory of Sicilian life. Let's not forget fave e ricotta, a springtime dish where fresh fava beans are eaten raw or lightly boiled and paired with ricotta. It was a celebration of the season, an edible reminder that winter had ended. Families would gather outdoors, peel the beans together, share stories, and eat in the sun. Desserts also belonged to this tradition of simplicity. Meal cut, baked apples with sugar and cinnamon, were made when fruit started to soften and needed to be used quickly. Zeppole, small fried dough puffs, were made during holidays using only flour, yeast, and water. Over time, even in periods of scarcity, Sicilians learned how to turn basic ingredients into moments of joy. Each of these recipes, 30 in total, represents not just a dish but a memory, an echo of lives lived with humility, creativity, and strength. They remind us that true cuisine does not come from luxury but from the ability to transform little into enough. The families who cooked these meals did so with love, with resilience, and with a profound respect for the land and sea that sustained them. Today, when we speak about Sicilian cooking, it's easy to focus on famous pastries, elaborate pasta dishes, or stunning seafood platters. But beneath that culinary shine lies the heart of the island. These simple recipes, passed down through generations, still served in many homes, still loved, still alive. They are not just food, they are history, they are culture. They are the story of Sicily itself.